Welcome to Commonwealth Politics. I'm George Serra.
And I'm Mark Kemper.
Our show today is on the pre-election analyses of the November 2010 elections here in Massachusetts and nationally. And with us, we are very pleased to have the state party chairwoman for the Republican Party, Jennifer Nassour, and the state party chairman for the Democratic Party, John Walsh. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you very much.
For inviting us.
Thanks for coming. Jennifer, I'd like to start with the first question to you. These are pretty interesting times right now, nationally, but also in the state of Massachusetts. The Republicans seem to have a pretty good opportunity now to make some gains both in the legislature, maybe win the governorship, and also maybe pick up a seat or two in the U.S. House. Could you talk a little bit about what the prospects look like from your vantage point, now 4 weeks out, and where you think you'll be after the election?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think our prospects are looking pretty good. I think it's something like 88% of the electorate doesn't approve of where we are going when they feel like they can't get jobs, the economy isn't good. And with so much voter frustration, it just naturally ends up being that people start taking another look at the other party, the party that's not in power. And here in Massachusetts, we're pretty inequitable, if no one hasn't noticed. Republicans only make up 11.7% of the voting population. And in the House and the Senate, we only have a combined 20 members right now. And fortunately, we do have one United States Senator, so that helped us a little bit. I think that we have great opportunity. I would like to thank the most impressive group of candidates that we have had in about 20 years. We have 140 Republicans that are running this year, which is great because it increases our chances, but it's not just people, it's the quality of people. We have small business owners, we have moms that just got fed up with where their education system was going, where their communities were headed. We have people who have come back from the military that are frustrated with where America is going and want to make an impact in their communities. We have municipal office holders that are now saying, you know what, I've done a really good job on this level. I want to move up and I want to do the same, institute the same reforms I did on the municipal level up in the legislature. We do have a great opportunity for at least one congressional district, I think, which is obviously Jeff Perry's doing a great job down on the 10th, but we also, I think, have other opportunities around the state. Sean Belat is running against Barney Frank. He is a 35-year-old businessman, military man, brand new dad of a little boy, and he is working really hard, and he presents a great alternative to Barney Frank. He is cordial, he is warm, he is smart and well-spoken, and I think that he is someone that people are actually looking at and saying, you know what, you would be a good congressman, and you are a good alternative to Barney Frank. On the governor's race, Charlie Baker has been doing an outstanding job. The more people get to know him, the more they like him. He is the only real reformer in the race. He brings in a whole different perspective from being a CEO of a company, knowing how to make the hard decisions that CEOs have to make to get a company from being, faltering and having debt to a company that's all cleaned up and has a good team going. So I think we have great prospects. Unfortunately, I don't believe in polls. I think that the only poll that is relative is the one on Election Day, and when people walk out of the election booth. And 4 weeks in politics is a very long time.
John, how are things looking for the Democrats?
Well, there's a number of things that Jennifer and I agree on. First of all is the lack of importance of current polls. A long time ago, I gave up predicting politics. It's a very dangerous occupation. But I know that when you're in a close election, which we are in right now, this is a situation where we are on a global basis, having suffered a tremendous economic collapse that has impacted our country and our Commonwealth tremendously. I think that particularly when you look at the congressional races, it is an interesting proposal to take us back to the policies that actually drove this economy into the ditch. And I think that that is what's on offer, I believe, in this case. And Democrats, we have a tremendous group of candidates who have taken leadership roles in recovering our economy. When Barack Obama took over the presidency and this Congress began to meet, we were losing 700,000 jobs a month. Since that time, in the last year, our economy has been recovering, not nearly at the rate that we need it to, not nearly at to touch enough people. But I do think it's important, the contrast between the two parties and their effort, particularly on the national races. I think the situation in Massachusetts does stand aside from the impact on a national basis. While there are still too many people out of work, Massachusetts' economy is growing at twice the rate of the nation's. We've added 65,000 new private sector jobs since January 1st. There's no state in the country that has added more jobs than Massachusetts, and there's no state in the country that's more focused on the people who still need to get those jobs. This recovery is not a matter of chance. It's a matter of policies that have put forward by this legislature and this administration to focus on industries that are the industries of the future, whether it be life sciences, clean tech, green energy, whether they be repairing our broken infrastructure, which has been neglected for too long, investments in affordable housing, in public colleges and universities, and let me congratulate Bridgewater State University on its new designation.
Thank you.
Earned and deserved. This kind of focus has been an important piece of our recovery. For many, many years, Massachusetts has been out of the national leadership business. But today, we see that our public school students are #1 in the nation. Our fourth graders #1 in the world in mathematics. That's not by accident. We're #1 in health care coverage for our citizens. Almost 98% of the people in Massachusetts have access to the quality health care that we provide. And not satisfied with just access, this governor and legislature are going after the costs and have capped premiums that health insurance CEOs like Charlie Baker have instituted over 150% increase over the last number of years. Neither Tim Cahill nor Charlie Baker support that cap. So we got education, health care, job growth. We are in the #1 state in America in our green and clean energy policies. You know, it used to be when you thought about environmental policies, people would say, well, California takes the lead. Well, a recent magazine article suggested that Deval Patrick has made Arnold Schwarzenegger a carbon girly man because of the nature of the growth in solar and wind and other clean and green technologies, the most important of which is conservation, which is our cheapest form of energy. And maybe the one that I think we don't spend enough time on is Massachusetts is #1 in the country on providing benefits to our veterans when they return home and their families while they're away. Those kind of leadership issues are really important, and I think that that's what this election is going to be decided on.
Well, let me ask you first, Jennifer. In 2008, when President Obama was elected, all the political talking heads nationally pretty much said the Republican Party would now be in the wilderness for a decade. Has President Obama, Nancy Pelosi, and Harry Reid been good for the revival of the Republican Party? And we'll give you a chance to respond.
That's excellent. Well, first, I just want to go back to one thing that John had said. I don't think this election is going to be about life sciences and about affordable housing. I think it's more on jobs, on the economy, on reining in spending, and where we have been doing spending, and the fact that 300,000 people in Massachusetts are still out of work. The fact that under the Patrick administration, taxes were raised 8 times over a 4-year period. I think that's what people are looking at. They're looking at, is it affordable to stay in my own house? Not only affordable housing for everyone else, but can I afford to live in Massachusetts and raise my family? With that, has Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi been great for the Republican Party nationally and in Massachusetts? I love them. I mean, I love when President Obama comes into Massachusetts. Every time he's come in, my candidates have won. He comes in, I've got 4,000 people that attend my convention, my state convention. Sure, I think they've been great because it has shown the nation exactly what we have learned in Massachusetts. One-party domination. is not healthy. We need to have a balance. That is what the American system is founded on. We need to have Republicans that are going to stand up, that are going to stand on the edge of their chair. They're going to say enough is enough. We need to move this on. This is what's good for the American people. This is what's good for people in Massachusetts. And so what we're looking for in this election is to even out that balance again, whether it be in the United States Congress or in the Massachusetts State Legislature, is to have a few more voices that are going to bring a voice of reason. They're going to be the people that are tapped into their communities, that are actually bringing their constituents' best interests to Beacon Hill. We don't need any more Diane Wilkersons, any more senators stuffing money in their bras. We don't need any more Chuck Turners, any more city councilors sticking money in their pants. We don't need any more state senators that are driving drunk or groping women on park benches. And that's what we have seen a lot from one-party domination and from the Democratic Party. Not saying that everyone is like that, that's a couple of examples, but we're looking to put in people who are actually going to have their fingers to the pulse and know what's going on in their communities. I think by looking at Nancy Pelosi and the high that she gets, the power trip that she's on, is really destroying America, because it's not giving other people an opportunity to have some buy-in and to have some weigh-in on what goes on. And Harry Reid has the same exact problem. And so I think that, yes, it's been eye-opening for people. I think that's where you have seen the Tea Party sprout out of. People who are just sick and tired. The tea is taxed enough already. It's people who are just plain old sick and tired of the way business is done as usual, and they want new voices in there.
John, I think the election in 4 weeks is going to come down to turnout. Who gets their folks to the polls? And it seems that certainly when we had the election with Scott Brown won, the Republicans really had an edge there. The Tea Party movement was at a frenzy, and that still is with us. So it seems that they have an edge right now in terms of mobilization. What's your sense out there talking with voters and also interacting with candidates about turnout on November 2nd?
Well, I think that that there will be across the board strong turnout, because there are issues that people care about on the ballot, and I think that is good for democracy. I mean, I celebrate the turnout in January. I don't agree with what the majority of voters decided, and I think we've suffered from Scott Brown's time in the U.S. Senate. He voted against and prevented an increase in summer jobs programs, and went against an extension of unemployment benefits. He blocked proposal after proposal that would have helped Massachusetts, including money for schools that we got months late because he refused not to vote for it. He joined the Republican minority in blocking a vote to happen. The votes were there, but that kind of stand in the way. So I think voters who thought that Scott Brown would go to Washington to be an independent voice has actually found a guy who's gone there to block things that are important for us. Those kind of issues on the table, those kind of concerns are what will drive turnout, and I think that that's going to be the personality piece of politics is certainly always an interesting part, and I'm sure those of your viewers who enjoy following along what's happening nationally must enjoy, on the Democratic side, the emergence of candidates like Rand Paul and Sharon Angle and Christine O'Donnell, who are driving the Republican Party so far to the right with really unusual, let's be straight, unusual positions on issues that the voters will have an opportunity. But it's not just around the country. We have our own Bill Hudak here, who puts a sign on his lawn comparing the President of the United States to Osama bin Laden. We have Bill Gunn in the 1st District, who's running around Washington getting himself arrested in the Capitol building itself. We have Jeff Perry, who still has questions to answer about his prior activities. I don't think, as we talk about the personalities of the politicians that may or may not be elected, that's what most voters are going to talk about. But those things exist on all sides. What is going to be an issue with this is you have a candidate in Charlie Baker who proposes a $2.5 billion reduction in revenue for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and does not have the courtesy or the courage to tell the voters where that money is going to come from. He offers instead a pablum of 13 shop-worn ideas that he calls the Baker Dozen. He says they're worth $1 billion. Mike Widmer says there may be half of that, maybe. But you put $2.5 billion in cuts. He acknowledges we have a tough budget coming next year, $2 billion deficit already. It's irresponsible not to lay forward. Yesterday alone, So this is, I don't know when people are going to be watching this, but Monday, this past Monday alone, Charlie Baker's campaign is in the State House News Service saying these will be cuts that will be proposed day one. In the Attleboro Sun-Times, he's saying these cuts will come over time. Neither one of the budgets work out. I mean, you can't say a $4.5 billion gap in this budget is going to be eliminating the Pacheco law, if you can get it done, if you believe it's a good idea. You can't say, but you can talk about Charlie Baker puts forward forensic lifestyle analysis to tell whether people are worthy of benefits from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Checking on people's immigration status at the door of the homeless shelter. These kind of cuts are and if you just take all of those, you may be covering 20% of the whole that he's proposing in this budget. These are serious concerns for places like Bridgewater State University, for the local public schools, the police, and the fire. And if this candidate for governor doesn't have the guts to tell the voters where that money's coming from, then they're going to reject that, because they've seen it before. They saw it when he designed the Big Dig financing plan, which put us in the hole still to this day. $800 million in toll increases, $850 million in interest costs that we're still digging out of, pun intended. And those kind of irresponsible fiscal positions by Charlie Baker are what the voters are going to be deciding on the next 4 weeks.
Do you want to respond to anything before we ask another
Yeah,
question?
absolutely. I would say, when it comes to talking about our congressional candidates, there's Jim McGovern, who's been hanging out with Fidel Castro for years. Barney Frank had one partner that was growing pot, another one that was running a brothel. Let's see. So you have different personalities that are currently elected. Jeff Perry, Representative Perry, has answered every single question he needed to answer. He answered during his primary. It was a very good opportunity for him to be vetted and for him to go through all the questioning he needed to go through, and he answered all of those very candidly. And so I think that is not exactly an accurate depiction of all of our candidates. On Senator Brown, he has absolutely been the independent voice up there on Capitol Hill. He is up there fighting every single day for the taxpayers of Massachusetts, which is a little bit more than I would say that our other United States senator, who had to go to Rhode Island to dock his boat to avoid $500,000 in taxes, was up to. And also thinks that voters are looking at slogans and not actual news, which is completely untrue and unfair to the educated voters of Massachusetts. But I think more importantly is the fact that Charlie Baker, when he is elected governor, is going to run into a $2.5 billion debt that was created under the Patrick Murray administration. And if that debt wasn't there, then Massachusetts would be in a much better position than it currently is. The cuts that Charlie is looking to do are very common sense reforms. Number one, the voters had voted to scale back the income tax to 5%. It's at 5.3%. We do need to go by the will of the voters and bring it back to 5%. The sales tax was at 5%. Last year, in the middle of a recession, the Democrats in the legislature decided it was a fabulous opportunity to raise the sales tax to 6.25%, hurting our small businesses, driving people out of Massachusetts up to New Hampshire, where they can go up and live tax-free, where they can go and shop tax-free. One of the state reps from down this way, Rep. Rodrigues, thinks it's okay to go buy booze up in New Hampshire instead of paying the sales tax in Massachusetts. So that is a common sense reform. It's something that it shouldn't have been done in the first place. The voters are outraged over it. And a couple of things that Charlie has looked into doing is having a hiring freeze, a statewide hiring freeze, having a statewide pay freeze, so that way people are not getting raises like our current auditor, Joe DiNucci, had given his staff a 5% increase. So doing a hiring freeze, having a pay freeze, but also making sure that state benefits are only provided to legal immigrants in Massachusetts and not to illegal immigrants in Massachusetts. So I think that those are some of the main things that he's looking at doing, in addition to working on that budget number down. It's not going to go away overnight, but it is something that will go away, especially as more and more people get put back to work.
Given that every midterm election in the 20th and 21st centuries, except for 3, the president's party has in fact lost seats in the United States Congress. And I know everyone claims they don't look at polls, but given that the polls show that the intensity of the voter is on the side of the Republican voters in this election, the fact that Missouri had a ballot initiative repudiating the national health care bill, the fact that Democrats are running away from the president's policies and Nancy Pelosi's policies in the House and the campaigning, realistically, what do you forecast for seat loss nationally for the Democratic Party?
Well, one thing I just want to mention, I believe Jen probably misspoke because I don't think she meant to mislead. There is not a $2.5 billion debt that's been generated. There's a projection that based on the fact that we've used federal recovery money and other one-time revenues to fill the budget gaps for this current year in order to preserve education funding and healthcare funding and job creation programs, that we are looking at a potential shortfall for next year's budget. But it is not accurate to say there's a debt that's going forward. As a matter of fact, this legislature and governor have passed 4 budgets on time, responsible, and balanced, which not a lot of other states can say. So I believe that was a misstatement as opposed to a misrepresentation. As far as the issue relative to the national, I can predict there'll be 10 Democratic congressmen from the United States, from Massachusetts in the United States Congress. I don't spend much time, honestly, chasing the national numbers. I do understand the history of, usually when a president wins, he has some coattails that he carries, some swing districts on his presidential victory, and sometimes those seats are at risk in the coming election when maybe they revert more to form. I don't honestly spend much time chasing around those numbers nationally. I do think, though, that that the voters are focusing. While I think we both agree we don't chase the polls, but I don't want to leave uncontested the suggestion of this enthusiasm gap. If you read just the New York Times 2 days ago and reports today, those generic Democrat-Republican polls nationally are now shifting 5 points plus for the Democrats. A generic test, would you rather Democrat or Republican? That's a late-breaking thing. It's only in the last couple days.
The U.S. News and World Report had different numbers, so it
I
depends on whose
understand.
numbers
So
we're
I guess
looking at.
illustrating the problem with
Right.
polls. But that dynamic is shifting right under our feet as we're taping. And I think that what's more likely is this is going to be a highly, hotly contested, evenly matched race around the country. I think that one of the things that we talk about in the issues of this election and fiscal responsibility, and I know that as employees of the college, you must have some sense of irony to hear how we've been padding the payroll with all these extra benefits and salary to the public employees. In fact, under this administration, we've cut 3,000 employees in order to balance the budget. We have, in fact, every management employer in the executive branch of government has not only had pay and merit increase freezes, they have all accepted furloughs, which essentially for 2 consecutive years, which is pay cuts. And the first governor in the history of the Commonwealth to bring the public employee unions to the table and negotiate givebacks. Negotiated givebacks, the first time in history, Deval Patrick, in order to preserve the services that are so important. Too often in Republican administrations, the layoffs are gleefully announced and executed with a smile. That's not the way this governor has done it. He has made the tough choices with layoffs, increases in health insurance premium. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. The idea that this has somehow been a merrily we go along thing, the tough choices have been made. There have been additional revenues enacted. I would point out that for small businesses, not only has the governor capped the increases of their health insurance premium, but we have instituted tax cuts for small businesses and another one in place for next year because that's where the jobs are going to come from. We just have in this election really 2 different views of where we're going. We're at a fork in the road. We've had tough times. I suggest they were driven by Republican laissez-faire policies in Washington that drove our economy into the ditch. The Democrats have made the tough choices. Massachusetts is in a better shape. We have in Charlie Baker someone who wants to tell a story that we can cut $2.5 billion out of this budget in addition to the $2 billion that Jen cites, and we can offer $500 million in alleged savings to match those. Well, anybody who looks here, no one who watches this show who pays attention to the state budget knows better than I do that there is the only couple places where that money comes from. It comes from healthcare, from higher ed, and local aid. If you've got to fill a $4.5 billion, if people intend to vote for candidates espousing those reckless policies, then they are making a conscious decision to accept those consequences. And I think that it's important, and in this election to date, the Republicans espousing those have dodged the issue. Give me a list of where that $4.5 billion is going to come from. Deval Patrick will stand up and take the heat for decisions he made. I think Charlie Baker needs to do the same thing on the proposals he's making.
Going to give you the last couple of minutes.
Fiscal year 2012 starts off with a $2.5 billion deficit, the way that we're working right now. So I think that it is reflective upon the Patrick Murray administration. When Governor Patrick became governor, he was left with a clean slate. Governor Romney made sure all debts were paid. Massachusetts was on a good moving forward progression. And since Governor Patrick has been the governor, he had made promises like, he was going to reduce property taxes. Well, I don't know about all of you, but my property taxes have gone up. So property taxes never went down, property taxes actually went up. He also promised 1,000 new police officers on the street. And instead what we've seen is 2,000 new people get into government and have government positions instead of those 1,000 new police officers.
I suppose those private sector police officers you're talking about? I mean, I don't want to let the bashing of public employees go unanswered, and I appreciate you've got the last minutes, but I'm not going to let that go.
Well, he promised 1,000 new police officers. There are no new police officers that are on the street.
We've had an international fiscal collapse, $9 billion in lost revenues. How many of them are going to go with Charlie?
2,000 new people were hired into state government. And I think that there are a lot of scare tactics that the Democrats would like to let people in on and say, we're going to cut local aid. This is going to affect education. It's not. You know where it's affecting? It's affecting people that are reaping benefits off of our system that shouldn't be getting benefits. It's people who are sitting at computers playing poker all day and not doing the citizens' work, using taxpayer money to fund illegal benefits, using taxpayer money for workers that are employed by the state that are non-necessary workers. There are so many, the unions, bringing unions to the table, my God, they make more money and they continue to get the jobs, whereas non-union employees don't have jobs.
So voters, you need to get out there and learn about the candidates and vote come November. That's an important election.
Absolutely. Thank you for watching Commonwealth Politics.
See you next time.